edition of the Hispanic Patriot, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret and undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines here in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth. So help us God. Now without further ado, our co-host and host, Nick Razzo and Hugo Chavez-Ray. Give it up for Nick and Hugo!
All right, welcome everyone to another Wednesday edition of the Hispanic Patriot podcast. We are broadcasting from high atop the ivory tower today, and we've got a whole plate. We have a full plate of issues to cover tonight, so we're going to dive right into it. There's a lot of interesting stories out on the media, and some are funny, some are not. But we lead off with a very sad story, of course, and that is the story about the tanker and the bridge collapse in Maryland. We apparently have about 6 people who are presumed dead, and we're sad to hear about that, and we offer our prayers and condolences to the families of those who have perished apparently in this tragedy. From what I can tell, the story is that this tanker accidentally struck the abutment of the bridge in the middle of the night, and it just collapsed like a house of cards. Do you have a video there we can play, Peter?
Yeah, it's very, very sad to hear, to be honest. Actually, relevant to Hispanic Patriot, it looked like some of the sailors might have been from Guatemala and El Salvador and some countries like this. A lot of Central American countries produce a lot of sailors, actually. Philippines does as well.
New
So,
at Maurice's.
very sad.
Fresh fashion.
Whoop. Okay, so
For all the
the
places you're going this
story
spring.
is
Plan your getaway with
saying
new
that
comfort
there were
classics.
people
Dress for
working on the
occasion in
bridge,
beautifully flowing fabrics.
apparently,
Enjoy a night out in feel-good fashion.
that
Go do spring. We've got you.
and then of course there's people from.
Good evening. I'm Nora O'Donnell, and
from
thank you for being
cars.
with us. We are here tonight,
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
not far from that catastrophic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. The devastation is beyond words, with this massive structure in ruins, twisted and broken. By daylight, the extent of what happened here became more clear. The video is stunning, and it tells us a lot about what happened after the ship lost power, then collided with the bridge. Tonight, we're also learning more about the survivors and the missing. Construction workers were fixing potholes on this heavily traveled bridge in the early hours of the morning. The community here devastated, many telling us this view will never be the same, with the bridge that has stood for decades no longer in the skyline. A state of emergency now issued by Maryland's governor, and everyone from the federal government to local law enforcement pitching in to help a community in shock. Dramatic video captured the horrifying moment the massive cargo ship, nearly 1,000 feet long, crashed into a support column on the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore.
The whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Within seconds, a large portion of the bridge collapses, plunging into the Patapsco River.
We are still investigating what happened, but we are quickly gathering details. The preliminary investigation points to an accident. We haven't seen any credible evidence of a terrorist attack.
A closer look at the video shows the ship heading south at about 1:24 a.m. when the lights go dark but quickly on again. A minute later, plumes of black smoke can be seen billowing from the ship's chimney. Once again, it appears the ship loses its lights. A minute after they come back on, the vessel slams into the bridge.
Never would you think that you would physically see the Key Bridge tumble down like that. It looked like something out of an action movie.
Sources tell CBS News multiple alarms rang out on ship.
Yeah, That is
After several failed attempts to fix the loss of propulsion,
It does look like an accident then, pretty solidly. Very unfortunate. I
the
actually know a
pilot
thing or
issued
two
a
about
mayday
marine.
call, giving officials time to stop traffic on the bridge.
These people are heroes. They saved lives last night.
The impact of the crash was so loud, it jolted Donald Heinbuch, who lives nearby, out of his sleep.
You up? What did it feel like?
It felt just like an earthquake. We've had some earthquakes here before, and that's exactly what it felt like. And associated with that was the rolling thunder, which I thought was very unusual.
My goodness.
it's you know, I have to pray that it was an accident. Unfortunately, in the days and the times that we live in, a lot of times people presume it was an accident, and then we later find out that other things took place. So, for the sake of what took place and what may be to come, I hope it was an accident.
Well, and even if it wasn't an accident, we have to now, as a country, take this really seriously. Is that if a couple of these incidents happened, across the country, West Coast, East Coast, this could cripple our infrastructure. I mean, this is a national security issue, and this is actually happening, in Biden's one of Biden's backyards. So it's the fact that something like this could happen. Hopefully it is just an accident. Again, people have to understand something about ships is you have to know where you're going before you start making moves, and that's a really big lesson for politicians in this country. Honestly, that this is how you have to steer big enterprises: is knowing exactly where you're going, making sure that there's tons of safety sort of situations for you to fall back on. These guys did look like that if something went wrong, they were going to crash into the support beams. I think a lot of people don't know that a lot of pilots and marine sailors, they don't have a lot of training. They're often from poorer countries. So if anybody wants to get into that kind of business, you definitely would have the skills for it. Being an American, being well educated, because we need better skilled people on the seas. Hugo, I'm sure America used to, has really built its success on sea power. We have the biggest navy in the world. We're the ones who keep the seas safe from pirates and all kinds of God knows what. So we should be able to do this in our own backyard. This is very unfortunate and somewhat embarrassing.
And then the follow-up from the president is just what mind-boggling to me. He goes on to say to start a speech and talk about the tragedy, and what does he do? He immediately makes it about himself.
Like he always does.
That's a sickening individual. I mean, everything is about him.
Well, especially when death is concerned. That's what bothers me, is that anytime someone's died or any soldier comes by, it's always about him. My son, or my this, or I've done this. Like, you know what? How about you just be a presence, like a president should be? But this is Biden. This is what he does. This is how he copes with death, as he thinks about his own deaths, and that's very selfish. That's not the right way to think at all.
Yeah, that's the part that just
bothers me too.
Bothers the heck out of me. It's the guy is just a waste when it comes to things like this. Look, he went to Maui, he made it about himself. He
always makes people feel worse. I mean, he has this amazing demoralization talent.
Yeah, he goes to greet the parents of those who died in Afghanistan for his stupid decision, and he makes it about himself and his son.
Yeah, famously.
It's ridiculous, but that's what we have.
Well, he's not going to learn at this stage. Hopefully there are smart people behind him in the city, and can get this done, get this fixed as soon as possible. Our prayers are with the community there and everybody who was affected.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about CD4 and the special election that here in Colorado. Thanks to Mr. Ken Buck, who first announced that he was going to not run for re-election.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter decides, well, you know what, I'm just going to quit now. And and I think anybody that's been paying attention to what this guy's been doing knows exactly why he's quitting now.
Yeah.
First of all, he uses the excuse that he's leaving because the Republican Party is beyond what he can support anymore.
For another 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, 5 months, he just can't bear it any longer.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
But watch how fast he appears on CNN or MSNBC and starts bashing Republicans, Trump, and everything that he can do, because that's
the most important thing he can do in his mind, I guess.
Well, he saw the handwriting on the wall, and the constituents in his district had already sent him a message that says you're not repeating. So that damaged his ego, for one, and then he went off on a tear, voting against things that he should have been voting for. And then, at every turn, he's on CNN or some other network bashing Republicans.
It just disgusted me, because I worked for a number of very principled candidates in my life, especially some of my first. And any term, let me just be very clear, any term that you as a citizen get of any position, whether it's a school district, county commissioner, House, national office, it doesn't matter. That is a privilege. That is not something you get to have a temper tantrum for not getting again. It's a privilege to be an officer.
Yeah. Well, I think, if you pay attention to what this guy's been up to for the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, number one, I don't know how you can trust a guy who goes out and cheats on his wife. That's the first sign of a lack of character.
That does matter. I mean, look at a man's family. It does matter, unfortunately. Well, actually, it's quite fortunate actually that we have these parameters. It's unfortunate that people don't think that we can judge people like this, but it's a man's family is the most important thing.
Well, it goes to his character. I mean, bottom line, whether you want to use that as a barometer or not, that's irrelevant.
Well, you got to know yourself. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's not even about. You can say about the moral and please judge, but if you had to pick an unbiased position, it's a matter of you got to know yourself before you run and try to control others. So if you that's what all the great philosophers say is control yourself before you try to control others. So,
but that's when he started showing his hand. I only said that
people get corrupted is the point. Is people get corrupted by power, and it shows in all aspects of their lives. They forget where they come from. We've all seen it. I mean, anyone in politics. And you and I, Hugo, we've seen it. Is people do get different, and they don't come back, and it's very sad. I wish they could just stay principled.
Well, I extrapolate that one step further, and I say, what else does somebody have out there on him that has caused him to turn, like he did on his fellow Republicans? Is he being blackmailed? Is he being extorted?
Right. Or is he just that petty? And that's a bad thing too.
Yeah,
none of this could possibly look good. None of it. No. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's just a sad state of affairs.
No. And if it was just one thing, then maybe that'd be different. If it was just one of those things, then okay. But it's all of these things. And right when he does this, I mean, it doesn't. And nobody was happy about this. I mean, coming from those, nobody thought this was the right thing to do. Everybody, they were on some spectrum of having theories, and some spectrum was just, man, I can't believe he did that. He left his constituents in the dirt. That was not right.
Well, how on top of all that, though, how hypocritical do you have to be to sit back and say, well, I'm leaving the Republican Party because I can't stand the lack of decorum? And oh yeah, what about that?
Right, picks up your toys and goes home. Like, all right. And I'm a great example of those Republicans with no decorum, so I'm taking myself out.
Did you think about decorum when you were cheating on your wife?
No, her name was Daphne, actually, not decorum, but I appreciate.
Well, I mean,
we gotta have fun.
We're all glad he's going, but then he wanted to throw the additional monkey wrench into the thing. But I think my theory is going to be proven correct. You watch. Within the next couple of weeks, he's going to be on CNN or MSNBC, and he's going to be the mouthpiece to bash Republicans, and in
Yeah,
particular
exactly.
Donald Trump. That's they're going to be one of their main attack dogs from the left to bash Donald Trump in his campaign. That's why he quit now and not in November, because if he was still in office, he couldn't be doing that kind of work. But now that he's out, he's going to be free to do it.
Right. Well, the last thought I have is just look at people, look at the situation, who's going out and who's coming in. It's the old fogies that are going out, and it's the people with fresh new ideas that are going in, like Hugo over here, known for being young and fresh.
Yeah, I'm about to celebrate my 75th trip around the sun.
Very nice.
On Friday, but if you look at me, you can't believe that.
No, not at all.
So, all right. So, enough of Ken Buck. I can't stand talking about him too much. But let's move on to CD5, which is near and dear to your heart, Nick, because
Oh yeah,
you're in the middle of that district, and you all had your assembly here.
yes, we did.
This last week, and
A lot of fun.
And Dave Williams walked away with like 70% of the
He
vote
did.
in the assembly. So now we have the three. I think three is going to be the number on the ballot. Two of them appealed through the petition process to get onto the ballot, and that's another topic that I'm very against. I am not a believer of the petition process. Some people are. They say, well, if they can get the signatures and all, but to me, it smacks of pay to play.
Yeah.
If you can't trust the voters in your district to put you on the ballot, then that means that you're not confident about your own ability to convince voters. So what you do is, if you have the deep pockets, you go out and you create this petition process and get yourself onto the ballot. I don't believe for a second that that's the way the process is intended to work, but unfortunately, I can't point my finger at how that started. But if it were me, I would change the bylaws or the laws to eliminate the petition process. But that's my own personal opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, to be honest, is I come from a completely different political tradition in Illinois, and a lot of the system just doesn't work. Here in Colorado, I will say to Colorado voters, your system does work a lot better than other states, but it does still have its problems. I think we went quite a bit over with our assembly. There was a lot of chaos. It did come through very, very happily, but no, you're Hugo. You are not alone in that opinion. A lot of people distrusted the people that got on the ballot this way, and not necessarily on a personal reason, but by the process they chose to get on the ballot by.
Yeah.
That was suspicious to them in some ways. Other people thought, oh, okay, letting people come in at various times, that's good, more open. But one thing I want to remind everybody is we're part of a political party because the party is a mechanism to help us achieve a goal, and that goal is making sure that there's an organized way to get candidates from the people to the halls of power for the people, and to have a lot of different pipelines to get there that way. I mean, how do you vet and properly, scrutinize all of those? Everybody should be on the same platform, in my opinion. Everybody should be on the same block together so that we can make an informed decision with everybody side by side. If there is, and then there's a question of, where did this guy come from? He wasn't on the assembly or no. The people who are involved, they want to see people at the assemblies. They want to see people, on ballots that they're personally voting for. So if it's not with the people, it's probably not for the people. Because that's what I would definitely say on that. And that's a lot of the vibe I got when I was at the assembly.
Yeah. And then, of course, Dave Williams' opponents
very vocal
have engaged in smear tactics because they can't defeat him at the vote. And
as it would seem,
the people of the district have spoken, in my opinion. with that resounding vote. It's very difficult to see a candidate walk away with 70% of the vote at an assembly.
No, and a lot of the opposition to him, I think, is I don't want to say spiritual, mythological. What I mean by that is everybody kind of has an idea of the kind of Republican they don't like. So some people it's the rhinos, but for some people, I would say that these kind of young bucks, I would say, ironic given the name of our representative, but these young bucks, they kind of, again, buck traditions. They kind of rub people the wrong way. And being a young man myself, I also am really, I know that quite well. Dave is a really forceful character in a positive way from what I met him as. I think that was my judgment of him. And a lot of the people around him, I noticed were younger people, and they had different ideas that went against certain other ideas. And I think whenever you have that, there's always a feeling of pride of, oh no, our strategy is changing. But people have to realize, in any kind of warfare, you have to change your strategy, and there's no favoritism in that. There's no favoritism in victory. It's what produces the results. Yep. That's definitely been my position from the start, is what gets the results. But I do think that the characters are actually pretty good. I don't think anyone is nefarious. You have this sort of, these Chinese accusation, but it's like, if you do import-export work, you're going to work with China. Like they own a lot of ships. They do a lot of work. Just trading with China is not the same thing as having ties to China. So I considered that a very weak argument.
They tried to make that an argument against his America First position, saying, if he's America First, what's he doing business with China?
Because they're a market. They're a massive market. Like, you have to, certain industries. Like, you're trying to win against them. You're trying to beat them in trade. Like, if doing business with China doesn't mean you love China if you're trying to make money off of them. That's what deals are made. Like, we're trying to get the upper hand. And if you could do that, that helps the American economy, actually.
Yep. And the other interesting thing that I read about this CD5 thing is that the Democrats' assembly is going to be an online assembly.
Yeah,
because they're still in COVID mode. They don't want to have live events because they're gonna. I have it in the back of my mind. I can't stand
this. Like,
this is gonna be what I predict. Come summertime, fall, there's going to be another COVID crisis.
Oh, and God help us. I hope you're wrong, Hugo.
And the Democrats are going to try to turn this into another hide in your homes and stay out of the public and vote by mail.
Man, I'd rather just have them make the bombs drop and be done. I don't want to do a no to COVID. I hope you're wrong, Hugo. I really do. That sounds terrible.
I hope I'm wrong too. I had this gut feeling. I mean, why on earth would they have an online assembly at this stage?
Well, that's as long as it's a gut feeling. Let me know if it's a brain feeling, heart feeling. If you get feeling anywhere else, then I'll get a little bit more scared. But hopefully that feeling is contained in one place.
Yep.
We will not comply. Very true.
Exactly. We will definitely not comply.
But this is ridiculous. I mean, in online, it's interesting because, like, in Russia, they have online elections, and a lot of, like, people are going to be condemning the Russian election for being fraudful because they can put votes here or there. This is how are you going to condemn a foreign dictator's election and then emulate his methods? Like, as long as we have the people, they want the people away from the process. And whether it's establishment Republicans or Democrats, this is what grassroots movements are against. Stop dividing the people from their political duties, from their obligations, from their privileges. We're citizens not to be obstructed. We're citizens to be led to the halls from where they supposedly we the people own these halls of power, supposedly. This is what these people want to do. They want to be like, the French noblemen in Versailles. Oh, the peasants, keep them away from me. This is wrong. This is not what America is built on. And the Democrats are showing it again and again while pretending to be the party of the people. It's absurd. Bring the people to you then. What's the problem? Why are you scared of the people? That's what I would ask the Democrats. Why are you scared of the people?
Yep. All right. Well, while we have a moment, I want to remind our viewers, especially those on YouTube, to click the like button, subscribe to our channel. If you like what you see, throw a few bucks at us because we can use the money to help spread the word. We're also on X and Rumble, and our website is listed right there on the face of our broadcast right now. So go there. Every episode that we've ever recorded is on there, and we're growing the website with new information all the time. So
yes,
give
please.
us and there's a feedback form on the website where you can communicate with us and tell us, we like this, we don't like that. Here's some topics that we'd like to hear about. That's what we want to get back from the viewers is tell us what you want to hear about, and we'll be more than happy to oblige and get information on that for you. So now, without further ado, earlier today, I had the pleasure of interviewing a candidate, friend of mine, that is running in Congressional District 1 in Colorado and running against the inimitable Diana DeGette, who's been entrenched in that district forever and is hardly ever seen in this district. And I live in District 1, so I can attest to that.
Wow.
So we're going to bring on the interview that I did earlier today with Valdemar Archuleta and roll the tape. We got no sound.
We get sound on that tape in just a minute there.
Peter, we need the sound. But
no sound, huh? Okay.
A few minutes to talk.
How about this?
Oh, there we go.
You gotta get going, and I gotta get going. So we'll jump right into it.
There we are.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for this office.
Well, my name is Valdemar Archuleta. I was born and raised here in Denver, Colorado. Graduated George Washington High School. So lived here most of my life. I'm very connected to Denver. My family's here. My dad is from northern New Mexico. My mom is Shoshone, and she's from Nevada. But both their families moved here when they were young, so they've been here a good portion of their lives as well. I moved to New York City for a while, but then came back to Denver about 7 years ago. So Denver is my home, and I'm running because I've seen the changes, not just in Denver and Colorado and our country. I've seen how it really affects our communities down to the very local level. The cost of living here. Like I tell people, I bought my home here in West Denver in 2017. Today, I could not afford to live in my neighborhood because prices have gone up. The cost of living's gone up. So I'm happy that I moved here and bought the house when I did. But I hear that from a lot of people. I was at a town hall meeting like a month ago, and a mother said that. She's really concerned that her children won't be able to live here. They won't be able to afford to live here. So that's something I see as an issue. Again, it's local, but it's also affecting everyone across the nation. And then you have other issues, kind of like the immigration issue, something I think that's really affecting people on a lot of ways. And really, I guess what I'm saying is like the whole open border issue. It does have to do with illegal immigration, but you also have drug trafficking, human trafficking, and other things that is just creating an insecure environment for our country. So our representatives in Washington are not taking these issues seriously. You can see that with what happened last week. They passed that, $1.2 trillion spending bill that they all had like 10 hours to read 1,000 pages. And they passed it anyway. And I think just the symbolism of that they passed a bill that's going to be that significant that they did not even read. They don't even know what was in it. And it's like, do they not even care about how this is going to affect our country? And so we need new representation in Washington. And that's why I'm running.
Okay. Well, that's the MO of in Washington. It seems to be with any spending bill, they just they ram it through, present it at the 11th hour, and then expect everybody to have read it and vote on it. And it doesn't work that way. But yeah, it's I'm disappointed in Republicans that voted for that thing.
I am as well. That overspending is going. It's bipartisan. Both parties have spent way too much money. Both parties have been very irresponsible in that.
Yeah.
And these omnibus bills where they're, you obviously don't understand a bill that's that big. You don't know everything that's in it. So like I said, it's irresponsible for our congressmen and women to pass a bill that they don't understand.
Well, there's a lot of pork in that bill. There's funding for things that have nothing to do with either national security or border or anything else. But that's the way they operate, and that's what needs to change. And I think sooner or later something's got to give. So what? Tell our audience what uniquely qualifies you for this office.
I think is that the House of Representatives is supposed to be a collective body of people who represent the majority of the country. They're kind of like a snapshot of the entire country. And right now we don't have a lot, and I'm not talking about superficial diversity, but just in the background, lived experiences of the people. We have like half of them are lawyers, the other half are career politicians. And so I think they just are out of touch with the everyday American. I live right here in the middle of the city. I work at the airport. I'm surrounded by the people all the time. And I think, well, not that I think this, being a politician in America was never supposed to be a career path. When our founding fathers established this, it was like you go to Washington, you're there for a few years, you bring your experience from wherever you were in the country, you apply it to the country, and then you go back home. You don't stay in Washington for the rest of your life. And that's what's happening. So right now, I just think we need more people in Washington who are just everyday Americans who have to deal with the effects of inflation and the economy, who have to deal with paying a mortgage, paying their bills, dealing with crime in our cities or wherever they are from, and take that experience and that know-how of what's actually happening to the people, and take that to Washington so that we can be more responsible with the legislation that we're passing or that we're considering.
Yep. Well, that's definitely on the minds of a lot of Americans. They wish that there were term limits, and the sad part is that we have to rely on the people we want a term limit to vote for the term limit. So,
yeah, that is the bad thing. They're basically voting themselves out of work, especially the ones who've been there. Like my opponent, she's been there for 30 years. If she were to pass legislation on term limits, she would be sending herself back home, and they don't want to go back home.
No, they're not going to do that. It's a conundrum, and we have to figure it out. So, in your district, how do you see the district? And I'm in District 1. What do you believe the top 3 issues would be affecting CD1?
Yeah, I've spent I announced my the campaign on January 15th, and since then I've gone to different town halls around the city. I've gone and met with different groups, and the things I'm hearing the most that are affecting people, one here in Denver, I think that people are talking about the most is the fact that we have so many what they call newcomers now. That's the new word for illegal migrants who are ending up in the city. I think they just appointed a new position in the city as the newcomer. I don't know, the newcomer person, but they're expecting this year $180 million to be spent on caring for the illegal immigrants ending up in Denver. And so that takes away from our community centers. It takes money away from other things that can be spent on. And so the community sees that, and and it's very interesting here in Denver, because in Denver we have we're surrounded by a lot of liberal Democrats, and at some of these meetings, I can see that people want to complain about this more, but it's almost like they're afraid because they're afraid of what their neighbors are going to think about them if they complain about it. But that's an issue that's coming up in a lot of the ways that it's affecting our community. The second thing I would say is just the cost of living here in Denver has gone up. So inflation and the economy is something people are really thinking about here in Denver. And the third issue would probably be crime. The crime rate in Colorado and Denver has skyrocketed in the past several years. And so people just don't feel as secure as they used to.
Yeah, especially downtown.
Yeah.
So if elected, there seems to be I don't know what it is. It's a mental disease or what, but when politicians get elected to office, they campaigned on one thing, and then when they get to Washington, they get kind of swallowed up by the swamp. Mm-hmm. And when an important vote comes up, you'll sometimes hear a representative say something like, well, I'm going to vote my conscience. And the first thing out of my mind is, no, you weren't elected to vote your conscience. Yeah. You were elected to represent. It's in the name of the position you have. You are a representative of your district. So you should be voting the way your district would want you to vote, not the way you personally might want to vote on any given issue. So if you were elected, when you were casting a vote on an issue, would you be one of those conscience voters, or would you be a representative of the constituents?
No, I think you're completely correct. You go there to represent the people, and that's really what that position is. As a Congress member of the House, the president looks out for the country as a whole. Our senators look out for the people they look out for the state, but the congressmen look out for their districts, and so you have to think about the people of the district, not just your conscience or not just your party. There's too much partisanship in Washington as well. The pressure on you really should come from the people, and I think the way you do that is just by remaining connected to the people. So like I have been doing, going to events, being out there with the people, talking to the people, because when these questions come up, now obviously the people choose you because they like what you think, and your conscience probably does play a part of that as to who you are. But I think what has to come before your eyes, you have to think about the individual people you had a conversation with. So who in my district that I talked to is this going to affect? And can I look them in the face and still know that I made this decision and that this is the right decision? Or can I explain this decision to them as to why this is the best thing for the people in your district personally? And I do see that already, because even when I'm posting like on Twitter or Facebook, or I guess it's X. I'm never going to call it X. It's always going to be Twitter to me. But that, Instagram, already, like when I say something, I'm like, all right, I can see these people I've had conversations with. I'm looking to represent them. Is what I'm saying going to really be a representation of who they are? And so that's another thing. I think when people are in Washington too long, they forget the people, and they start thinking more about lobbyists, big money donors,
there's a lot of pressure. That's what happens in the swamp is representatives get pressured, and they get pressured not only by outside sources but inside sources, because you have your different levels of representatives as far as ranking within the party and within the house itself, and so some people are considered swing votes, so they'll get more pressure than the ones that they know already are going to vote the way they want them to vote. So, but that's the thing I think that needs to change, because the word representative is not being adhered to. A representative is a representative for the district that sent them there, not for a representative for the swamp or for somebody from another district in another part of the country. It has to always, in my opinion, be the vote that best represents the district from where you come, and that's where that's what needs to change.
Yeah, and that's where the pressure on you should be from the people, not from other politicians or lobbyists or whatever. But that is, like you were talking earlier, the problem with term limits. Because if you've been there for decades, you're going to be you have more and more connections in Washington, in politics, and you have more and more pressure being built upon you from those sources. So we do need a rotation. I am fully prepared. There's a pledge going around of term limits. I'm going to sign it. I think they're talking about for the House of Representatives, they want to limit it to like 5 years, which would make not 5 years, 5 terms, which would be 10 years. I think 10 years is plenty of time, to go to Washington and get done what you're going to get done, and then leave and let new people come in who.
Some would say that's too long. I'm more in the camp of about 3 terms for representatives and 1 to 2 terms for senators.
I think 2 terms for senators is good because that's 12 years. That's also plenty of time. I forget the name of the organization that's kind of putting these pledges together. I think their thought was, we do want some experience. You don't want it to be all newbies. But I mean,
well, I guess it depends on what you. It depends on what you talk about when you say experience, because experience to some people mean that you're more entrenched in the system than you are in your job as a representative, and that's where I think people are frustrated, is that they don't feel they're being represented, and that's why they're leery to trust anybody running for office, because the history is they say one thing and then go do another, and
that happens way too often.
That needs to change. So in closing, what would you like to add and tell the audience that's going to be hearing you here to know specifically about you and why they should vote for you over Diana DeGette?
Well, definitely check me out. Like I told people, follow me on social media. You can find me on all the major ones at Archuleta4CO. That's Archuleta, the number 4CO. And feel free to comment, leave feedback. If I say something you disagree with, post it. I am very open to hearing that, because you will. Like I say, if there's a politician that you agree with 100% of the time, it's either you're not listening to them or you're not thinking for yourself. There's always going to be something you disagree with. So I'm very open to feedback. So follow me and let me know what you think. You can also visit my website, Archuleta4Colorado, allspelledout.com, and just see who I am. If you live in the district, one nice thing about CD1 is it's basically the city of Denver. So area-wise, it's small. It's the smallest district in Colorado. Population-wise, it's very large. So we will be doing events in that throughout the next several months. Come find me, have a conversation, and ask me any questions you have personally.
Where can people donate to your campaign?
Yes, that is the money in politics is so but it is very important. So go to Archuleta4Colorado.com. Again, all spelled out, Archuleta4Colorado.com. There's a big donation button right at the top of the page. I would love your support.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be featuring a lot of the Colorado candidates on our website as well. Yeah. We're building a page for candidates, so we'll get you up there.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everything you do, getting these voices out there and talking to the Hispanic community, because that's very important. They need to see us reaching out to them.
Well, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is based on experience that I have is I would go into the inner city, into the communities like around 5 Points, talk to the small business people, and introduce yourself to them, because a lot of people think that Diana is kind of the queen of that district, and that nobody is going to challenge her, and so they have no options. So they need to know that there is an option, and that it's time to send Diana packing. So thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to talking to you some more along the campaign trail. We've got assemblies coming up and a lot of things going on, but we'll definitely probably have you back on during the campaign as well.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'd love to come back.
All right. Have a great day. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Very nice.
All right. That was Valdemar Archuleta from Congressional District 1. He is the former chairman of the Log Cabin Republicans. And I say that because there's so many out there that say, well, Republicans don't like gays. Well, we like a lot of gays as long as they're thinking correctly. And this guy's been on the firing line for a long time, and I think he'd make a fine representative. So I wish him well, and we'll pray for him.
Very nice.
All right. Now we're going to get into a little bit of a fun story. As some of you may or may not have heard, President Trump has now been accused of hawking Bibles. And according to the headline, it sparks a fury among Christians as a blasphemous grift. This is the most ridiculous. This just goes to show how out of touch and how really, I don't know what label to put on these people anymore, but they are so pathetic in attacking this man that he can't do anything that they don't attack him for.
How dare he spread the literal word of God? This is terrible. Well, people should do it completely for nothing at all. I mean,
but not only that, it's the headline. It's not Trump selling the Bibles, okay? First of all, he's doing this.
It's just a promotion, first of all. Yeah.
For his friend Lee Greenwood, who has launched this campaign to sell the God Bless the USA Bible, which is basically a King James Bible. We're not talking about
it's got some like Constitution and some Bill of Rights stuff like that. It's a unique product, you know. It's got the Bible and our founding documents. It's right. It's just a thing. Like it's just.
But the media has to go ballistic and say Donald Trump is now hawking Bibles. Oh my God.
I mean, there are some people who are very protective of the Bible, which I mean, I believe we all love the Bible, yes, but it's the words inside the Bible that are important, guys. The book itself is a book. It's a commercial product. This is true. People print and sell Bibles. They make profit upon them so they can make more Bibles. This is how capitalism works. I thought everybody recognized. My goodness.
Yeah,
how dare he sell Bibles?
Let's watch this short clip of President Trump on Truth Social.
My goodness. I mean, there's many different kinds of Bibles too. So like,
sound is off.
There we go. We got it.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song "God Bless the USA" in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time. It's a very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around. Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. Religion is so important. It's so missing, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong, just like our country is going to come back strong. In the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. Christians are under siege. We must protect content that is pro-God. We love God, and we have to protect anything that is pro-God. We must defend God in the public square and not allow the media or the left-wing groups to silence, censor, or discriminate against us. We have to bring Christianity back into our lives and back into what will be again a great nation. Our founding fathers did a tremendous thing when they built America on Judeo-Christian values. Now that foundation is under attack, perhaps as never before. What can we do? Stand up, speak out, and pray that God will bless America again. I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again. Pray, get educated, get motivated, and stand with me and the legions of Americans asking God to bless our great nation, to bring our great nation back, and to make America great again. I'm proud to partner with Lee in this offering. He's a very special man, both as a talent, but maybe even more so as a human being. He's very, very special. And I think you all should get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible now and help spread our Christian values with others. There you have it. Let's make America pray again. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
Oh my
See, who
God.
did that hurt?
What a grifter.
What a jerk.
How dare he? How dare he call for people to turn to God for guidance? Oh my
See, that's
God.
what I'm saying is, like, look, people who have problems with stuff like that, they don't look at the fruits. Know them by their fruits. What bad fruit was in there? I didn't see any.
Oh, according to the left, I mean, he's the devil incarnate.
Well, or even some of these, and a lot of them are left wing. People don't talk about this. These sort of idolatrous Christians who they make being Christian their religion more so than following Christ their religion. It's just, it is what it is. Like we talked about before. There's a chicken and egg problem here. Do the people make a government and they are religious people, or does the government make them religious? No. Our people are naturally religious. They want a government that reminds, their politicians that, hey, if you rule the people wrong, there is a hell for you. There is a hell for the thieves and corrupt and the bad judges and all these things. It's important that we have this understanding, and people want it. I mean, we're meant to be a Christian republic. That's what the founders wanted. So if the president is selling Bibles, then I don't know. That's a pretty good thing.
Well, let's listen to a little bit of what this article says. It
Yeah.
says Trump selling copies of the Bible during Holy Week like it's just one more overpriced Trump shoe or steak has really touched the nerve among voters. We've heard from many upset Faithful America members since his video appeared. The Reverend Nathan Empsall, who is probably a liberal, executive director of Faithful America, which I've never heard of, told Newsweek via email, seeing the indicted would-be dictator sell so-called patriotic Bibles does provide a parallel to Holy Week, but it's not with Jesus. Trump is doing his best impression of the corrupt money changers who profited by ripping off worshipers. Today, much like Jesus overturning the money changers' tables, Christians are sick of seeing MAGA's false prophets twist our loving faith for an agenda of hatred and selfishness.
I mean, and then you're right, Hugo, actually. Yeah, the organization this guy comes from, yeah, it's an anti-conservative organization. Like, this is what they do, is they get like one sort of strand of, mostly sort of Unitarian Christianity is a big one. A lot of these people don't even believe in the divinity of Jesus, but they call themselves Christians. They'll find one of these people who are very liberal, who come from these liberal churches, and they'll claim to speak for all Christians. I mean, you can only say for all Christians what is true for all Christians, and all Christians love the Bible, and they don't care if it's Donald Trump's Bible. It's not even Donald Trump's Bible. It's the artist's Bible in the first place. It's spreading the word of God. We need more Bibles out there. I don't understand the problem, and we know the problem is that Trump is a Christian. They don't like that because most Americans are Christians, and they don't want people to identify with Trump as their guy. It's just sad because they're attacking ultimately the word of God and spreading the word of God. That's what they're attacking. They could try to be attacking Donald Trump all they want. That's not what they're attacking in. That's not their target end up.
And these people lie as they bash Trump for doing it, and they go, another person wrote, total blasphemy. No true Christian would support a heathenistic huckster like Trump who is mocking their religion.
By selling the Bible.
Oh, yeah, that's a real mock. Another wrote, he is promoting the sale of Trump Bibles during our most holy week of worship. This is beyond blasphemous and disrespectful to Christians, and I'm really pissed off.
These guys should go back to 1500 and just go right up to Johann Gutenberg and just say, you're making money off printing the Bible. Like, it's just silly. It's silly. Should the Bible, maybe we should just pass the Bible down through oral tradition only. What do we want? Like,
yeah. And then Newsweek gets a quote from a Trump spokesperson. He says,
God.
Asked for comment about the backlash, Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung told Newsweek, these are never Trump idiots suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome.
I'm glad for that answer. They picked the right man to respond.
That describes it to I can't do any better description than that.
That's how we talk to the media, folks.
That's ridiculous. I mean, come on, people. But this is how ridiculous they are. Now let's segue into another Trump derangement syndrome group, and this has to do with
a lot of those lately.
Ronna McDaniel, the former RNC chair, as some of you or most of you have already heard, she was hired last Friday after resigning or after leaving the RNC chair position. She was hired by NBC on Friday. The talking heads on CNN and NBC and MSNBC went ballistic and just had a litany of attacks against NBC's hierarchy for daring to hire a former Republican RNC chair, saying that she was not worthy of being listened to because she promoted the election denier group and the
how dare she,
the 2020 election being stolen. And guess what? These people are the same ones who promoted the Russia hoax, and said that Trump's election was produced by the Russians in 2016. So
they can't handle it for 1 second, but they can dish it out.
The very people who promoted election denying now are mad because NBC hired someone they claim to be an election denier.
Well, real quick, news media, more people are going to believe in January 6th than today. Every day that goes forward, Americans are going to believe more and more and more that January 6th was a nothing burger, nothing should have been hurt, that the election was stolen, that all these opinions are going to get more prevalent.
Yeah.
Censoring Ronna McDaniel censoring her is not going to change that course, people.
Yep. So what they did, NBC's hierarchy caves yesterday, or was it Monday? I think it was yesterday. So they cave and fired her. So now they're on the hook for $600,000 to Ronna McDaniel because they had given her a 2-year contract at $300,000 a year. So
see, that's the deal that Ken Buck wanted. That's the deal that they really wanted. Doing no work and getting $600,000. That sounds like a good, post-political job to me.
Well, I think Ronna McDaniel.
My goodness.
Look, I'm no huge fan of Ronna McDaniel. I think she did a fairly good job as RNC chair. I don't have great, things to say.
Kind of neutral,
she handled it, and I think to her detriment, and she probably wishes she wasn't Mitt Romney's niece. But she handled it with grace, and she's moving on. And I don't think we should be, as Republicans, that we should be bashing her because she's more
Yeah.
with us than she is against us.
Exactly.
And I haven't seen her going out and bashing Trump.
No,
So,
yeah.
Now Trump did come out and kind of mock her a little bit, which that's one thing I'm going to say I disagree with. But
I mean, her moves were a little silly, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I could have probably left that alone. But
yeah, that's but we're never going to be in 100% in agreement.
No, like Archuleta said, is that if you're in agreement 100% with a politician, something's wrong, and there are things that we disagree with Trump on certain things, and decorum on this guy could be one of them.
But what I'm happy about is that Rana's going to laugh all the way to the bank with 600.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Like,
and there's a story out. I don't know, somebody threw it out there, but allegedly she is contemplating legal action against NBC.
Go for it. Nick Sandman them, really.
I mean, the left is good at suing people, so why not? I don't
exactly. We'll just put that money towards America. Yeah, they're all about the redistribution of wealth. They're all about paying their fair share, right?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yep, they were all jumping for joy when Fox settled with Dominion, and then it turns out that a lot of the stuff that Fox was saying is true, and more is coming out.
It's not going to stop.
I think that part of the problem with Fox and the ownership, I think they wanted just to make it go away and decided that it was worth paying the money to not be involved in a long protracted litigation. So
yeah, it is what it is on that one.
But basically extortion from Dominion, who's as dirty as they come. And yes, I'm saying it on the air, Dominion. You're dirty. You're dirty. You're a bunch of crooks and you lie. So
see, facts can't be sued against. There you go.
All right,
man.
It's amazing. So what we had here in Colorado, we're experiencing a barrage of anti-gun legislation by this runaway left-wing legislature that we have. And right now there are 4 gun violence prevention bills that have been passed by the Colorado legislature. They're going through the steps. I'm not sure if the Senate has already approved them, but they're hoping that these bills will get passed and that they get sent to Governor Polis's desk. It's going to remain to be seen if Polis decides to sign them. But from what I've seen and read, my opinion is they're going to get struck down because the Rocky Mountain gun owners in particular are going to immediately file a lawsuit the minute that they're passed and or signed into law. So we need to keep an eye on that. But, we know what their agenda is. They want to disarm the population. And the other thing that was interesting about the Colorado bills is that this one in particular would abolish the right of armed self-defense in many sensitive places. So
the kind of places you get shot in.
So after the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the right to bear arms in 2022, several states simultaneously made it easier to obtain carry permits and much harder to use them. One state can no longer require a special need before allowing residents to carry guns in public for self-defense. The politicians in those states worried that residents would start exercising that right. So deeming that
How dare they?
Yeah. Deeming that outcome intolerable, they instead started banning guns from a long list of sensitive locations, making it highly impractical for people to legally carry outside their homes, even after obtaining the requisite license. So in contrast with may issue states like New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, and Hawaii, where licensing officials had wide discretion to deny carry permits prior to the Supreme Court's ruling, they basically came out and implemented a bunch of broad restrictions. So this one in particular bill introduced last month would ban guns from, quote, sensitive places such as parks, playgrounds, recreation facilities, zoos, museums, libraries, public gatherings, medical facilities, banks, stadiums, amusement parks, bars, pot shops, college campuses, and houses of worship. So
where else do you go? Like, where else do you go in life?
These people.
But if they attack you in your home, you're good. Anywhere else that you would need like a concealed carry permit for, no, man, you're out of luck right there.
I mean, how ridiculous can you get?
Well, it's backdoor. Let's be honest, what it is. It's backdoor legislation of the New York style in a more gross way. I mean, that's what it is. It's like the New York bill, but way worse.
How long do you think that law will last at the Supreme Court?
I hope only until breakfast. Like, I can't believe that. I mean, we saw what happened when we're going to be known as the state that sends failed leftist legislation to the Supreme Court. We did this with the Trump vote. Now we're going to do this with this gun stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's obstructive, unconstitutional. And let's be honest, it allows for searches. Because if you say, oh, these sensitive areas, well, we need to search you when you're in these sensitive areas then. Because it's backdoor.
Did you hear about the red flag laws now that the federal government has established a red flag law office? And guess who's at the head of that? Guess who's heading that up?
The cabbage?
None other than the cackling VP, Kamala Harris.
Because she's been so successful with everything else she's been put in charge of. So that's how you know, future historians, that's how you know the Biden administration didn't give a crap about something, is they put Kamala Harris in charge of it. That's how you know they couldn't care less.
It just boggles the mind.
Wow.
But that's their end game, though. Their end game is a national red flag law that they want to implement. Again, it's unconstitutional, but they don't care about the Constitution. What's that?
No, and then when it becomes national, then you can't have good, loyal American sheriffs saying, oh, we're not going to enforce this. It's going to be federally enforced. But so that's what we got to do is people never forget your local fight matters, because if they can't win in the local area, they can't bring it to the national area. So wherever you're fighting, keep fighting, because this is how you stop this kind of stuff.
Well, but interestingly enough, though, a lot of people don't know this, but sheriffs have more power than federal officials.
That is true. That is true. You go with the facts.
Yep. Sheriffs will stand up to this wholeheartedly and dare a federal official to come into their county and try to enforce it. They will not put up with it.
Watch your sheriff's elections, people. Watch your sheriff's elections.
Sheriffs are very powerful. All right, so that makes it for the show tonight. We've got a lot. We've had a lot to cover. We've got a lot more coming up. But coming up in some future shows, we've got some very interesting guests. One in particular that if we get all the facts in line and we end up bringing him on, is actually a J6 defendant who just recently got released from prison. So we're keeping our eye on that story, and hopefully we'll be able to bring him on the show. It's a very fascinating story, and it involves not only the January 6th stuff, but also his personal family that's going through a trial right now. But we'll be announcing that. We've got assemblies coming up here in Colorado. We've got national delegate elections coming up in districts. So a lot's going to be going on here in the next couple of weeks in Colorado. And by the middle of April, the picture is going to be a little clearer as to what's going on with regards to the Colorado delegation. And we'll talk some more about that as we come back. So
look forward to that, people.
So again, tune in, like us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, donate if you're inclined, and definitely spread the word about our show and help us to do better job by talking about the topics that are important. Been another fun show.
Always a great time, Hugo.
God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America. Thank you all for joining us.